Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to your number one education show, Education Telescope on Leadership TV. I am Mariam Rabi, your host for the show, and here are the news. University of Abuja matriculate 5,873 students. The Vice Chancellor of the University of Abuja, Professor Abdulrasheed Na'Allah, has warned the newly admitted students against cultism, examination misconduct, and other negative acts capable of tarnishing the image of the university. Na'Allah, who stated this at the matriculation ceremony for 5,873 students for the 2022-2023 academic session in Abuja on Tuesday, said the university is working to ensure that its students become entrepreneurs and owners of companies upon their graduation from the university. He said the students of the university, aided by the Center for Entrepreneurship Studies, would also have their own company named registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission before they graduate. Despite the remarkable developments taking place in the university, the Vice Chancellor said there are a few challenges, which include inadequate facilities, especially hostel accommodations. The student population keeps growing, even though they have just about 6,000 bed spaces. The second news says federal government increases Unity College's fees to 100,000 naira. The federal government, through its Federal Ministry of Education, has increased the school fees of new students into federal government colleges from 45,000 naira to 100,000 naira. This was contained in a directive from the Office of the Director of Senior Secondary Education Department of the Federal Ministry of Education, reference number ADF 120 DSSE/I, dated 25th May 2023, and addressed to all principals of Federal Unity Colleges. According to the circular entitled Approved Fees Charges for Federal Unity Colleges First Term for New Students, signed by the Director of Senior Secondary Education, Hajia Binta Abdelkader, new students are expected to part with 100,000 naira instead of the previous 45,000 naira. The next story says federal government ASU suit. Court confirms KONUA, NAMDA as trade unions. The Academic Staff Union of Universities (ASU) has lost its bid to stop the recognition of its rival unions, the Congress of Nigerian University Academics (CONUA) and the National Association of Medical and Dental Academics (NAMDA) as trade unions, as the court on Tuesday affirmed their recognition as state trade unions in Nigerian universities. The National Industrial Court, in its ruling on the suit between the federal government and ASU, affirmed that KONUA and NAMDA are duly registered as trade unions and have the right to operate on Nigerian campuses. The claimants in the suit, ASU, had dragged the Minister of Labour and Employment, the Registrar Trade Union, KONUA and NAMDA as first, second, third, and fourth defendants, respectively. But delivering judgment, Justice Benedict Kanyip held that in line with the International Labour Organization (ILO) Act, there could be more than one trade union within employment. The judge in addition stated that contrary to the claimant's submission that Section 3 of the Trade Union Act made the first and second defendants incompetent to register KONUA and NAMDA to coexist and carry out the same functions in the universities as ASU. Kanyip said that the section does not encourage the monopoly of trade unions, but rather the section encourages the existence of other trade unions. From fact, the claimant had instituted the suit via an originating summons filed on June 26, 2022. The counsel further averred that the second and third defendants registered the third and fourth defendants in a bid to split ASU. The first and second defendants, in reply, submitted that the court should determine whether the issues raised by the claimants were not speculative and academic. According to the court, the claimants gave evidence of this assertion from an online publication titled Federal Government Registers to two new university unions in a bid to split ASU. Although the fourth defendant objected to the admissibility of the publication in evidence, stating that the publication was a hearsay evidence, the court, however, dismissed the objection and allowed the admissibility of Exhibit 1. The next story says, Kano suspend 3 principals, 6 teachers in public schools. Kano State Government has ordered the immediate suspension of 3 principals of public secondary schools for dereliction of duty. Those suspended are principals of Government Girls Secondary School Dawano, Government Girls Secondary School Kwa, and Government Arabic Secondary School Dawano, all in the Dawakin Tofa local government area. The State Commissioner for Education, Alhaji Umar Haruna Doguwa, issued the suspension during an unscheduled visit to the schools on Friday morning. Subsequently, the commissioner directed immediate posting of new and competent principals to the vacant positions to ensure smooth academic activities are not disrupted. Doguwa further instructed issuance of query to 4 teachers at GGSS Kwa and 2 at GASS Dawano for offences related to truancy. The commissioner, who was furious by the absence of the heads of their various duty posts as at that time of visit, expressed disappointment over what he considered nonchalant attitude to entrusted responsibilities. The commissioner, in a statement signed by Director of Public Enlightenment at the Ministry, Aminu Yassar, further checks on the conduct of the 3 senior officers indicated that the concerned persons had record of routine abscond from duty, especially on Fridays. Meanwhile, the commissioner has directed that the principal of GGSS Harbau, Tsanyawa local government, be rewarded for her diligence. And the next story says, NANS condemns proposed tuition hike in varsities, Unity schools. The National Association of Nigerian Student NANS has condemned the increase in tuition of higher institutions in the country. The student body said it was the most ridiculous and embarrassing that the government will be introducing fees increment without thinking of rescuing over 133 million Nigerian people from multidimensional poverty. In a statement at the weekend in Ibadan, by its National Public Relations Officer, Lisa Temitope-Giwa, the association said there was no justification for increments in tuition across tertiary institutions and even Unity schools. The body urged Nigerian students to brace up and be prepared for an all-round protest, as was done during the prolonged Academic Staff Union of Universities strike until the federal government reverses this policy. And the next story here is students ambush, beat up teacher who stopped them from cheating. 10 secondary school students in Ogun State allegedly attacked a teacher, Kolawole Shonuga, who stopped one of them from cheating during an examination. The spokesperson for the police command in the state, Omolola Odutola, confirmed the incident in Abeokuta. The incident happened on Tuesday at Isanbi Comprehensive High School, Elisanremo, Ikenne local government area of the state. Ogun chapter of the Academic Staff Union of Secondary Schools, ASUS, has demanded justice for Shonuga. The chairman of ASUS in the state, Felix Agbesanwa, expressed worry about the safety of teachers in the state. Shonuga, while invigilating the unified examination for the SS1 art class students, was said to have caught one Ashimi Adebanjo, 18 years, cheating and seized his paper. Annoyed for being caught, Ashimi and his gang waited for the teacher at the school gate after closing hour and beat him up. It was gathered that one of the students, Kazim Adelaja, allegedly hit a stick on Shonuga's head while others were beating him. The police spokesperson said Shonuga had made a formal report on the alleged assault at Remo Police Division and also confirmed the arrest of 10 suspects. The suspects have already been arraigned in court for assault. The next story says 18 poly lecturers complete training on research, technological development. No fewer than 18 no fewer than 18 polytechnic lecturers drawn from across the country have successfully completed a training program on research for impact initiative put in place by the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, TET Fund. Speaking at the closing ceremony of the training program in Abuja on Friday, Executive Secretary of TET Fund, Sonny Ekono, said the initiative, organized in collaboration with Innovative Hub, is aimed at promoting innovation and viable research in higher education institutions. Ekono, who said Nigeria cannot afford to be left behind the technological development, posited that technological development holds the massive key to overcoming challenges bedeviling the country. While appreciating Innovative Hub for its willingness to partner with TED Fund to propagate and advance an innovation ecosystem in Nigeria tertiary education sphere, Ekono pledged the commitment of the agency to continue to invest in the research as the foundation for Nigeria's emergence as a knowledge-based economy. Ekono expressed hope that the 2 weeks of intense research activities undergone by the 18 lecturers will stimulate knowledge sharing, collaboration, growth, and excellence among participants and their various colleagues. And the last story before we round up for today says, Dean calls for increased funding for tertiary institutions. The Dean of Student Affairs of the University of Ibadan, Professor K. Abiona, has lent his voice to the call for increased funding for tertiary institutions across the country, saying that it was about time other stakeholders supported the government to address the seeming roots in the education sector. Speaking as a guest of honor during award of scholarship to over 20 indigent students of the University of Ibadan by a social philanthropy club, Professor Abiona urged governments and other stakeholders to, as a matter of urgency, rise to the challenge of adequate funding for education in the country that wants to save the sector from total collapse. Abiona, who was represented at the event by Dr. Olumuyiwa Adejumobi of the Department of Veterinary Medicine of the institution, disclosed that for Nigeria to compete favorably with other countries of the world, a new curriculum needs to be drafted and tailored to suit the technological development that is rapidly changing at a pace the country cannot meet. He, however, implored the government at all levels and owners of private institutions to pay appropriate wages to teachers and create other incentives that would motivate and further encourage others to pick up teaching as a profession. Lamenting on the tuition fee hike, Professor Abiona said that the development may compel many students to drop out of school, occasioned by the current economic hardship facing parents and inadequate resources to meet up with economic demands. He further stated that the scholarship scheme is an initiative of the Social Philanthropy Club aimed at helping to solve the existential problems affecting the educational sector by rewarding and awarding diligent indigent students. Thank you for staying tuned, and that is all on today's edition of Education Telescope on Leadership TV. I am your host, Mariam Rabiu. See you next week. Bye for now.
Leadership TV, for God and